Amazon hired hundreds of lobbyists to strip privacy protections from customers in 25 states. Now, Congress is being called to pass bipartisan legislation to stop it. Mike Davis, founder of the Internet Accountability Project, talks with us about that investigation, starting with just what personal data and information were knowingly and unknowingly giving to big tech.
We are turning over almost everything that you can think of. If you have to think about what the big tech business model is, that normally with businesses, they sell you something, they sell you a commodity. With big tech, they gather as much data as they can about us, our movements, our searches, what we're looking at online, how long we're looking at it online, and then they take that data and they sell it to advertisers. So we're the commodity. They try to gather as much information as they can as possible.
Well, what devices that we use on a day-to-day basis are considered the most invasive?
Well, I mean, right on your iPhone, right on your Android phone. I mean, that's with you at all times, and they can actually track your data. They can track your location second by second if you have your smartphone with you.
Well, the Reuters investigation shows how Amazon is actually working to block consumer privacy legislation while at the same time claiming to support such regulations. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill working to pass stronger privacy laws. But is there anything that we can do as tech users in the meantime to secure our personal data and information?
It's very hard. I mean, that is their whole business model. These are trillion-dollar big tech monopolists, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, and they make their money off of collecting your data. They want to gather as much information as they can about each one of us. And so what we need to do is we need to break up these big tech monopolists. The problem is that we need to, that there's not competition among these platforms, and then they can use and abuse their users like us by taking data that we don't even know that they're taking and using it and selling us to advertisers. So we need to.
Yeah, and Amazon coming under fire when it comes to privacy concerns. They said they prefer federal privacy legislation compared to a patchwork of state regulations. What's your response to that?
Well, it depends on what the federal legislation says, but the typical trick for these monopolists is they want legislation as entry barriers to competitors, right? They want to make it very hard for the startup competitors to compete against them. And if you have onerous federal privacy regulations, platforms like Amazon, platforms like Google, Facebook, and Apple, they can afford to absorb those costs, but the startup competitors cannot. So really, it's the details in the legislation that matters.
Well, a former aide to Joe Biden actually helped Amazon in its lobbying efforts to undo legislation in nearly 25 states that were designed to give consumers, users like you and me, control over our own data. Now, the company dumped money into political donations. They had hundreds of lobbyists working to give Amazon the upper hand while simultaneously taking rights away from users. Now, I thought this was interesting. The Amazon CEO declined to comment as to why the company is opposed to major privacy protection bills. What does that say to you?
They don't actually support them. And the key is that you need to figure out from your elected officials if they're taking big tech money, if they're taking Google, Amazon, Facebook, or Apple money, and you need to make it very clear to your elected officials that you don't support that. They need to stop taking this big tech money because it's a zero-sum game. If you're taking big tech monopolist money, then you don't support everyday Americans and their privacy rights.
And it doesn't seem like there really has been major privacy legislation passed in Congress as of late. What's the next step here? What needs to be done right now?
It's going to be tough to get 60 votes in the Senate to pass anything, right? So it's important to move in that direction. You see bipartisan coalitions in the Senate, like Blumenthal from Connecticut and Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, moving to put together privacy legislation. I think the key right now is there are 6 bills that have passed through the House Judiciary Committee on a bipartisan basis that will break up big tech monopolists, the 4 big tech monopolists, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. And it is really important that those bills pass through the Senate. There are 2 bills right now, the merger bill and the non-discrimination bill, that are in the Senate right now that will take care of a lot of these problems. And I think Republicans and Democrats need to come together and support these bills and several more and finally rein in big tech.
Well, I'm glad we're at least creating some more awareness there in the meantime. Mike Davis, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.